Take a moment before you keep going, not because something dramatic is happening, but because something quiet inside you is asking for attention. You've been moving through life efficiently, doing what needs to be done, handling things without making a scene. And most people would say, you're fine, you're managing. But you know the truth. You've been functioning, not fully feeling. There's a difference. Lately, you may have noticed that your reactions aren't the same anymore. Things that once upset you now just make you pause. Things that once excited you now make you think twice. It's not numbness, it's awareness. You're starting to notice how much energy you used to give away without realizing it, to conversations that went nowhere, to expectations that weren't fair, to versions of yourself that were built just to survive certain seasons. And now, those versions don't fit. That can feel uncomfortable. When you outgrow something, it doesn't end with clarity, it ends with questioning. Who am I without this habit, without this role, without constantly explaining myself? You may feel like you're in between, not who you were, not yet who you're becoming. That space can feel empty, but it's not. It's neutral. And neutral is powerful because it's where you stop reacting and start choosing. You're becoming more selective, more thoughtful, less willing to rush decisions just to relieve pressure. You don't want intensity anymore. You want steadiness. You don't want promises. You want consistency. You don't want noise. You want truth. And truth rarely shows up loudly. It arrives in moments like this, when you slow down enough to hear yourself think, when you stop asking, "What should I do next?" and start asking, "What actually feels right?" That question changes everything. You're learning that clarity isn't something you chase, it's something that forms when you stop betraying what you already know. There's nothing wrong with you, nothing broken, nothing missing. You're simply becoming more honest about what you need and less interested in what you're expected to want. This phase isn't meant to impress anyone, it's meant to stabilize you. And that stabilization is only beginning. As you sit with this awareness, you may start to notice something subtle but important. You're no longer reacting from urgency. Before, urgency used to guide your choices. You felt the need to respond quickly, decide fast, move before doubt caught up. Now, there's a pause. Not hesitation, not fear. A pause that feels intentional. You're allowing yourself to feel a decision before committing to it. That's new. And at times, it feels unfamiliar enough to make you question yourself. You might wonder, why am I not pushing like I used to? Why don't I feel the same pressure anymore? The truth is, pressure used to be your motivator, but motivation built on pressure always leads to exhaustion. You're learning a different rhythm now, one where your choices come from alignment, not from needing to prove something. You've also become more aware of how certain environments affect you. Some places drain you immediately. Some conversations leave you tense even when nothing negative was said. And instead of ignoring those signals, you're starting to respect them. Your body knows things your mind takes longer to understand. You're realizing that peace is not passive, it's active. It requires discernment. It requires boundaries. It requires saying, "This costs me too much," and choosing differently. This doesn't mean you care less. It means you care with clarity. You're also noticing that silence doesn't scare you the way it used to. You don't rush to fill space anymore. You don't feel the need to explain every pause. You're comfortable letting moments unfold without controlling them. That comfort didn't come from nowhere. It came from learning that not every gap needs fixing. Some gaps are invitations. Invitations to rest, to reflect, to recalibrate. You're beginning to trust that answers don't disappear just because they arrive slowly, and that trust is changing how you see uncertainty. Uncertainty no longer feels like danger. It feels like possibility. You don't need to know the entire path. You just need to recognize when something is pulling you forward and when something is quietly asking you to stop. Right now, you're being asked to stay present, not to decide everything, not to solve everything, just to remain honest with what feels heavy and what feels light. Because this phase is teaching you how to listen, and what you're learning to hear will matter very soon. And even after all of this settles, something else quietly begins. You start noticing how your standards have changed. Not in an arrogant way, not in a closed-off way, but in a clear way. You don't feel the need to explain your boundaries anymore. You don't feel guilty for choosing rest over reaction. You don't feel selfish for protecting your peace. What once felt like avoidance now feels like wisdom. You're no longer interested in fixing everything. You're interested in understanding what's actually yours to carry. Some problems reveal themselves as distractions. Some responsibilities reveal themselves as habits you never questioned. And some expectations were never meant to be met by you in the first place. You're learning to tell the difference. That discernment didn't come from reading something. It came from experience, from being stretched too thin one too many times, from staying too long where you should have left sooner, from giving energy where it was never returned. And instead of hardening you, those moments refined you. Now, when something doesn't feel right, you don't panic, you don't overthink, you simply notice. And noticing is enough. You're also beginning to understand that growth doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like saying no when you used to say yes, like staying silent when you used to over-explain, like walking away without needing closure. That doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you stopped abandoning yourself. There's a quiet confidence forming in you now. Not loud, not performative. It's the confidence of someone who doesn't need constant reassurance to feel secure. You trust yourself more. Your decisions don't feel rushed anymore. They feel considered. And even when you don't have all the answers, you trust that you'll recognize the right ones when they appear. This phase isn't about becoming someone new overnight. It's about becoming more consistent with who you already are. Less divided, less conflicted, less pulled in opposite directions. You're integrating. And that integration is preparing you for something that hasn't arrived yet. Something that will require presence instead of urgency, clarity instead of chaos, and steadiness instead of speed. This isn't the end of the shift, it's the deepening of it. And now, this is where everything settles. Not because life suddenly becomes simple, but because you do. You stop searching for signs everywhere and start trusting what's already clear inside you. You no longer confuse intensity with meaning or noise with importance. You choose what feels steady, what feels honest, what feels sustainable. And that choice changes how you move forward. You don't rush anymore. You don't freeze either. You move when it's time. You pause when it's needed, without guilt, without explanation. You understand that not every door is meant to be opened, and not every opportunity is meant to be chased. Some things arrive to test your awareness, not to be taken. And now you can tell the difference. You carry yourself differently. There's less resistance in your body, less urgency in your thoughts. You don't feel the need to be everywhere, to be everything, to be understood by everyone. You know who you're becoming, and that is enough. The future no longer feels like something you have to outrun or control. It feels like something you're ready to meet. Whatever comes next will not ask you to abandon your values, your boundaries, or your sense of self. It will fit. It will grow with you, not against you. And if something doesn't align, you will notice early and walk away calmly without doubting yourself. That's not detachment. That's maturity. You're no longer living in reaction to the past or anxiety about what's ahead. You're present, grounded, aware. And from this place, life doesn't need to be forced. It unfolds. You didn't miss your moment. You were preparing for it. You weren't delayed. You were stabilizing. And now you can move forward without losing yourself in the process. This chapter closes quietly, but what opens next will recognize you exactly as you are.